He pulled her from the wreckage, screams, glass, smoke. Then silence. The sound of twisting metal tore through the air like thunder. Olivia's car flipped twice and landed sideways in a ditch off a lonely forest road. A pine tree had stopped the wreckage from tumbling further. Inside the crumpled vehicle, Olivia hung half-conscious, blood dripping from her forehead, the seatbelt cutting into her chest. Her ears rang like sirens, her chest heaved in panic and her fingers twitched but couldn't move. She was certain. This is how I die. Then, hands, warm, strong hands. A man's voice, low and urgent, cut through the chaos. "Stay with me. I've got you. Someone was out there." He was kicking the mangled passenger door again and again until it bent. The smoke was thick. Flames were dancing underneath the hood. He didn't stop. "I'm going to get you out. Just don't close your eyes." Olivia couldn't answer, but her gaze locked with his for a moment. His face was half-shadowed, but she could see something calm, almost steady in his eyes, like he wasn't afraid of fire, of death, or anything. He pushed the door open just enough to reach in. Carefully, he unlatched the jammed seatbelt and lifted her into his arms. His own skin tore against the broken glass, but he didn't flinch. He ran with her, away from the growing fire. Just as he laid her on the forest floor and knelt beside her, the car behind them exploded. "You're safe now," he whispered. His voice was soft, like it wasn't the first time he'd said those words to her. Then, before she could even blink again, he vanished. Olivia woke up 3 days later in the hospital. Her mother was sitting beside her, eyes red and puffy from crying. Tubes ran from Olivia's arms, her leg was in a cast, and pain filled her body like a dull fog. "You're okay now," her mom whispered. "You're lucky. Someone pulled you out just before the car caught fire." "Who?" Olivia's voice was weak, raspy. "No one knows," the nurse chimed in. "He didn't give a name, just saved you and disappeared before the ambulance arrived." Though news spread quickly, reporters called him the ghost hero. Social media lit up with hashtags. A few people claimed to have seen a man running from the crash site, but no one could describe him clearly. No name, no phone, no license plate, nothing. The police opened an inquiry, but it led nowhere. To Olivia, it didn't feel like luck. It felt like a message. Months passed. Olivia worked hard in physical therapy. Her bones healed slower than her spirit. Every night, she replayed the same moment in her head. That man's voice, his touch, the look in his eyes. He had saved her life. But why had he left? Why didn't he stay and wait for help? Why hadn't he told anyone his name? And more importantly, why did he feel so familiar? 1 year later, the question still haunted her. Her therapist called it trauma bonding. Her mother called it an obsession. Her friends begged her to stop researching crash reports and online forums. But Olivia couldn't stop. She believed something more was behind it. This wasn't just about being saved. This was about being chosen. And then, on the 2-year anniversary of the crash, she received an envelope. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single printed photo, blurry, taken from a distance. It showed a man standing near a wooden cabin, close to a foggy lake. Olivia stared at it for hours. The angle was off, the image was grainy, but her gut told her, it's him. She flipped the photo over. Written in red pen was just one thing: Dunridge Pines. She had never heard of the place. A quick online search showed it was a near-abandoned mountain town in the north, population under 150, barely on the map. She didn't hesitate. The next morning, she packed a bag and drove. Dunridge Pines was colder than she expected. The streets were narrow, the people silent. There were no chain stores, no cell signals, and too many watchful eyes. At a small diner, she showed the waitress the photo. "Do you know this man?" Olivia asked. The waitress looked down, her face instantly pale. "You should leave, miss," she whispered. "You don't want to get involved." "Involved in what?" Olivia asked. But the woman had already walked away. That evening, Olivia found the cabin. It sat behind a wall of pine trees, just like in the photo. The windows were dark. The door creaked as she pushed it open. It was empty, or at least, it looked that way. Dust covered the floor. The air smelled like cedar, and above the fireplace was a small photo frame, a picture of her, recent, taken outside her local supermarket. Her heart dropped. He'd been watching her all this time. Suddenly, she heard footsteps on the porch behind her. The doorknob turned slowly. Her breath caught. A shadow moved across the cabin wall, tall and unmistakably male. She took a step back. Then a voice, soft, familiar, chilling. "You shouldn't have come here, Olivia." The cabin stranger. The voice sent a chill down Olivia's spine. It was low, steady, just as she remembered from the night of the crash. She froze. Who are you?" she asked, stepping back from the fireplace. Her eyes darted to the doorway. His figure stood just beyond the threshold, his face still hidden in shadow. He stepped inside slowly, 1 foot at a time, as if uncertain whether to face her or run. "I told you not to come," he said again, more softly this time. "This place isn't safe, not for you. But you saved me. You pulled me out of that car. You disappeared before the ambulance came, and now you've been watching me." He didn't deny it. "I had to make sure you were okay," he said, finally stepping into the light. Olivia's breath caught. He was younger than she expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp cheekbones, stubble on his jaw, and eyes the color of storm clouds. His face was marked with small scars, like a man who had lived a hard life. He looked tired, worn down, but not dangerous. "Who are you?" she repeated. He hesitated. "My name's Jacob." She stared at him, waiting. But he said nothing more. "Jacob, why did you save me and then disappear? Why not wait for the ambulance?" He looked away, jaw tightening. "Because I wasn't supposed to be there, because people would have asked questions I couldn't answer." "What kind of questions?" Jacob sighed, walking past her. He picked up the photo of her from the mantel and turned it over in his hands. "I never meant for you to get involved. I never meant to come back into anyone's life." "But you did, Jacob," Olivia said, stepping closer. "You saved mine, and then left me with years of questions." He set the photo down and looked at her. "You don't understand. You can't. The moment you walked into this cabin, you stepped into something that goes far beyond that crash." A cold silence fell between them. Olivia crossed her arms. "Then explain it to me." Jacob didn't speak for a long time. Instead, he turned to the old wooden table in the corner and pulled out a box from beneath it. Inside were newspaper clippings, old photographs, and handwritten notes. He spread them across the table like puzzle pieces. Olivia stepped closer and saw a headline: "Missing man presumed dead after mountain disappearance." Another clipping: "Whistleblower escapes federal custody, vanishes without a trace." And then a photo of Jacob, younger, clean-shaven, in a suit. "That was me," he said quietly, "before everything fell apart." Olivia stared at him, stunned. "You were a whistleblower?" Jacob nodded slowly. "I worked for a security firm contracted by the government. I uncovered some things I wasn't supposed to, about illegal surveillance, private data being sold, people being watched without consent. When I tried to go public, everything changed. They tried to silence you. They tried to erase me," Jacob said. "And they almost did. I barely escaped, faked my death, changed my name. And I've been hiding ever since." Olivia's head spun. "So you've been living out here completely off-grid for years?" Jacob gave a sad smile. "This place was supposed to be a last resort. I've only stayed a few times. I travel mostly, change towns, no paper trails." "Then why did you come back now?" He met her eyes. Because of you. Her chest tightened. I was heading through that forest road by chance. I saw your car flip. I didn't think, I just acted. But when I saw your face, something stopped. Me. You reminded me of someone I once knew. Olivia blinked. Who? He looked down. My sister. Her lips parted in surprise. She died. Years ago, car accident, no one could save her. When I saw you trapped in that wreck, I thought maybe I could rewrite that moment, do something right. She was silent, taking it in. His story felt heavy, like a weight pressing on the cabin walls. But after I pulled you out, he continued, I heard sirens. I knew I had to disappear. If anyone recognized me, it would have put you in danger too. In danger? From who? The people who still want me gone, Jacob said. Some of them still think I'm dead. If they find out I'm not, and that I made contact with someone, he didn't finish. Olivia's stomach twisted. But then why watch me all this time? Why send the photo? Why bring me here? Because they're getting close again, he said, voice grave. I needed to warn you. A knock suddenly echoed on the cabin door. Both of them jumped. Jacob's face went pale. They found us, he whispered. He quickly grabbed Olivia's hand and pulled her toward a trap door under the rug. Come on, down here. She hesitated. Jacob, what's happening? No time, he said. They think you know something now. You're not safe anymore. More knocks, louder, firmer, then a man's voice. Open the door, Jacob. We know you're in there. Jacob opened the trap door and pushed Olivia inside. Stay quiet. No matter what happens, don't make a sound. She slid down the ladder. Into the darkness. Above her, the door burst open with a crash. Then, silence. Shadows in the basement. The trapdoor slammed shut above her, sealing Olivia in darkness. Her breath came in shallow gasps. The air in the small crawl space beneath the cabin was cold and thick with dust. It smelled like old wood and something metallic, like blood or rust. Her hands trembled against the dirt floor as she tried to keep her balance. Upstairs, she could hear the heavy boots of several men moving inside the cabin. A man's voice barked commands. Check everything. He's here somewhere. Jacob hadn't made a sound since the door burst open. She didn't know whether he had surrendered or if he was still hiding somewhere else in the cabin. Is he okay? She wondered. What if they hurt him? What if a sudden crash above made her flinch? Something shattered, maybe a chair or a table. Then she heard it. Jacob's voice. Calm, controlled. You shouldn't be here. A deep, unfamiliar voice answered, colder and harder than before. You think hiding in these woods makes you untouchable. You've been sloppy. We tracked the girl. We know she came here. Olivia's heart dropped. They followed me. You don't want to drag her into this, Jacob warned. It's too late. She was seen entering this cabin. That makes her part of it now. Another pause. Then, where is she, Jacob? There was a silence so long, Olivia held her breath. She's gone, Jacob finally said. I warned her not to come. She left yesterday. A lie. The man didn't respond for a moment. Then, we'll see. Footsteps thudded directly above Olivia's hiding place. She squeezed her eyes shut, praying the wooden boards wouldn't creak. The man's boots scraped slowly across the floor. Each step felt like thunder in her ears. Then, a click. The trapdoor's handle. Olivia clamped a hand over her mouth, but the man didn't open it. Instead, he said coldly, We'll be watching again. You can't run forever, Jacob. Then the sound of retreating steps. The door slammed. A vehicle engine roared outside. She waited, unmoving, until Jacob opened the trapdoor a few minutes later. He helped her up, his face pale and drawn. They were close this time, he said. Too close. She looked at him. Who are they? Jacob locked the trapdoor. Ex-government operatives. Not official anymore. They left the system to keep things quiet in the shadows. I exposed their crimes. And for that, I became a target. They would have hurt you, They would have hurt me. He nodded. That's why I didn't want you involved, but now we don't have a choice. They left the cabin that night. Jacob led her through a narrow trail behind the house, deep into the forest. They moved fast, silent, except for the crunch of leaves beneath their boots. "Where are we going?" she asked, out of breath. "There's someone I need you to meet. Someone who believed me when no one else did." After 2 hours of hiking, they reached a small, abandoned ranger's outpost. The roof was cracked, but a dim light flickered inside. Jacob knocked 3 times, then paused, then knocked twice again. The door opened. A tall woman with a long braid and sharp eyes stepped aside to let them in. She held a shotgun, but when she saw Olivia, her expression softened. "This her?" the woman asked. Jacob nodded. "Name's Maeve," she said, extending a hand. "You're brave to come all the way out here. Most people would have run." "I didn't have a choice," Olivia said. "He saved me. I needed answers." Maeve gave her a tight smile. "You deserve them. But first, you both need rest. You're not safe yet." That night, in the warmth of a fire, Olivia and Jacob sat close. The room smelled of pine and old books. "You were right about them watching me," Olivia said. "They followed me. I led them right to you." Jacob shook his head. "They would have found me eventually, but now we're in it together. Why did you leave that photo for me? Was it a warning or a test?" He looked at her for a long moment. "It was hope," he said. "Part of me believed that if you were strong enough to survive that crash, maybe you were strong enough to hear the truth too." Her voice wavered. "What happens now?" Jacob pulled out a small flash drive from his jacket. "This holds everything I took with me, all the data, names, dates, audio, proof. I've been trying for years to find someone to help me get it out, someone the world would believe." He looked at her with serious eyes. "I think that person might be you." "Me?" she whispered. "You were just a bystander, a victim. People will listen to you. We go public together. You share what happened. We reveal the truth." Olivia felt a storm rise in her chest. Fear, doubt, courage, all tangled together. Could she do this? Could she risk everything? Before she could answer, Maeve re-entered the room. "You both need to leave. Now." "What happened?" Jacob asked, standing quickly. Maeve held up a cracked radio. "They know you're here. The signal scrambled, but I heard part of it. They're coming back with more." Olivia looked at Jacob. He reached for her hand. "It's your choice. We can disappear again, or we fight." She squeezed his hand back. "Let's finish what we started. The secret file goes live." The rain had started again. Light at first, then pouring in heavy sheets as Olivia and Jacob made their way through the dense forest. Maeve's warning echoed in Olivia's mind. "They're coming with more men. They want the file destroyed and both of you silenced." Now, with the flash drive clutched in her hand, Olivia realized this wasn't just Jacob's fight anymore. It was hers, too. They reached an old rail tunnel buried behind thick vines and overgrown brush. Jacob pulled them inside. The air was cold and damp, filled with the smell of rusted tracks and wet stone. "This is the old smuggler's route," Jacob said. "It connects to an abandoned metro station just outside town. From there we find a secure internet connection." Olivia glanced down at the flash drive. "We upload it all?" He nodded. "To every journalist, agency and platform I know. Once it's out, it can't be stopped. And they'll come after us harder." "Yes," Jacob said, "but at least the truth will be out." They walked for an hour in silence. Olivia's legs ached, her shoes soaked, but her mind stayed focused. Everything she once knew, her quiet life, her job, her plans, had shifted the moment she stepped into that cabin. There was no going back. Finally, they emerged through a broken fence into the crumbling remains of the old metro station. Vines covered the roof. Nature had taken over long ago, but deep inside, behind a collapsed ticket counter, was a dusty storage room. Inside it, a single laptop, powered by a portable battery. Jacob brushed the dust off the keyboard and plugged in the flash drive. "Now," he said, "we hit send." Olivia hesitated. "Are you sure this will work?" Jacob met her eyes. "I've prepared everything. Encrypted backups, auto-forwarding. Once we hit send, the files will go to over 300 trusted inboxes across the world. Journalists, lawyers, truth-tellers." He turned the screen toward her. "You should be the one to do it." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Her heart pounded. "Once I press this key, I can never undo it." But she thought of the crash, of the 3 years she spent wondering why. She lived and what it meant, of the men who came into that cabin with guns and lies. She pressed send. The screen blinked. "File transfer complete." Olivia let out a shaky breath. It was done. Jacob leaned back against the wall. "We just set fire to a hornet's nest." She gave a small smile. "Good." But the moment didn't last. Suddenly, Jacob's head jerked up. "Do you hear that?" Footsteps, fast, boots scraping on concrete. They weren't alone. "Hide," he whispered, yanking the laptop free and throwing it into a backpack. He pushed Olivia behind an old vending machine, just as the door slammed open. Flashlights swept the room. A man's voice called out, "Find the drive." Jacob stepped into view, hands up. "You're too late," he said calmly. "It's already gone." The man in front, a tall, hard-faced agent in a black coat, smiled darkly. "Then we'll make sure you go with it." Olivia peeked from behind the machine. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. There were 4 of them, all armed, all looking at Jacob like he was already dead. "We warned you," the lead agent said. "Now it's over." "No," Jacob said. "Now it begins." Suddenly, boom! Smoke filled the room. Maeve had rigged a diversion outside. A flash grenade exploded in the tunnel. Chaos erupted. Jacob grabbed Olivia and pulled her toward the exit. The agents yelled, firing blindly. But in the smoke, no one could see. They ran, ducking behind crumbling pillars, jumping over fallen beams. When they reached the stairwell, they didn't stop. They climbed and climbed until the cool air of night hit their faces. Above them, the city glowed in the rain. They didn't stop until they reached a crowded gas station on the edge of town. Inside, surrounded by strangers, they finally breathed. "They won't chase us here," Jacob said, leaning against the counter. "Too public." Olivia nodded, wiping rain from her forehead. "But for how long?" Jacob took out a small radio. "Let's find out if it worked." He turned it on. Breaking news tonight, as documents leaked to multiple news outlets reveal classified information about a government-linked surveillance group accused of violating civil rights laws across the country. Olivia froze. A chill ran down her spine. Sources say the whistleblower behind the leak has been in hiding for 3 years. The data includes audio recordings, names of operatives, and even an eyewitness account from a recent car crash survivor. She turned to Jacob, eyes wide. "That's me," he nodded. "They'll know now. They'll know everything." They stood together in the corner of that gas station, surrounded by the buzz of headlines and the cold air of night. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were witnesses, truth-bearers, fighters. Back in the woods, the black coat agent held the broken laptop with shaking hands. One of his men approached. "It's all over the news, sir. They got away." The man stared at the shattered screen, his jaw tight. "This isn't over." He turned to his team. "Find them. The trap is set." The morning after the leak, the world changed. Jacob and Olivia sat in a dingy motel room miles away from the gas station. The TV buzzed in the background, switching between news reports. Every major channel covered the story now. Reporters were outside government buildings. Activists were rallying in city squares. Social media was flooded with hashtags like The Truth Files and A Whistleblower Unmasked, and somewhere in all of it, Their names were starting to appear. Olivia's hand shook as she turned off the TV. "They're going to know who I am," she whispered. "They're going to come after my family." Jacob placed a gentle hand on hers. "That's why we're going to end this. No more running." She looked at him. "How?" Jacob stood and opened the backpack. Inside, tucked beside the drive cables and burner phones, was a worn leather notebook. He handed it to her. "This is the last piece of it," he said. "My journal. I recorded everything when I went underground. Names, locations, meetings, even regrets. I never planned to show anyone. But now, if we want to stop them completely, we need to bring them into the light." Olivia flipped through the pages. The handwriting was fast, sharp, emotional. "You want me to read from this? I want you to tell the story from the start. Your crash, my disappearance, everything in your own words. We're going to do a live interview tonight." Her eyes widened. "Live? Are you insane? They'll trace us." Jacob smiled faintly. "Not if we choose the right place." That afternoon they met Maeve again, this time in an abandoned broadcast van parked deep in the woods. Once used for news reporting during emergencies, it still had satellite uplink, solar power, and a working transmission system. Maeve greeted them with 2 cups of coffee and a grim smile. "Everything's ready. If you go live through this van, it'll bounce through 3 proxy servers before hitting the broadcast. They'll trace it, sure, but they won't find you before it's over." Olivia stared at the equipment. It's one thing to send files, but this? Speaking into the world, Jacob nodded. "It's the only way they can't twist our words." She swallowed hard. "Then let's do it." The countdown began just after 7 p.m. The camera flickered to life. A small screen showed Olivia's face, nervous, pale, but determined. Maeve whispered from behind the console, "You're live in 5, 4, 3, then the red light blinked on. Olivia took a breath. "My name is Olivia Reed," she began. "3 years ago, I survived a car crash that should have killed me. A stranger pulled me out of the wreckage, then vanished. I never knew why until 2 weeks ago when I found him again." She paused, glancing at Jacob. "He wasn't just a stranger. He was a whistleblower. And the story he told me changed everything I believed." Olivia spent the next 10 minutes telling the world everything, how she was saved, how Jacob had exposed a secret surveillance unit, how they had been hunted, how they leaked the files. She showed pages from Jacob's journal. She held up the flash drive. She didn't cry, though her voice shook with emotion. "We didn't come here to hide anymore," she said near the end. "We came to finish what we started. If anything happens to us, if we disappear, know this. The truth is out now. You have the power. Use it." The screen blinked off. Maeve exhaled. "You did good." Jacob turned to Olivia, admiration in his eyes. "You were incredible." But before they could celebrate, Maeve's radio crackled. "Incoming transmission, encrypted. It's them." They saw the feed. Jacob tensed. "How close are they?" Maeve checked the signal monitor. Her face went pale. Too close. That night they didn't run. They hid the van beneath a camo tarp and waited silently in the trees, watching through binoculars as a black SUV rolled past the trail. Another followed. Then silence. "They think we're still on the move," Maeve whispered. "The delay worked." Jacob grinned. "Then we use it." He opened a map and pointed to an old storage compound outside the city. "That's where they store their off-grid backups, the only place that can still delete the data permanently." Olivia frowned. "You want to destroy it?" "I want to bait them into showing themselves." Maeve raised an eyebrow. "You're planning a trap?" He nodded. "And we'll need every second to pull it off." The next morning, Olivia, Jacob, and Maeve entered the storage site disguised as maintenance workers. They planted hidden cameras and routed the security feeds. through Maeve's satellite link. Then Olivia uploaded a fake message to a private server. Final drive copy located. Will delete by 6:09 p.m. It was a lie, but it worked. At 5:49 p.m., 3 black SUVs pulled into the compound. The men were armed, dressed in civilian black, faces covered. Olivia watched from a hidden room as they entered the building. Jacob whispered into the mic. They just confirmed their own involvement on live feed. Maeve was already streaming the footage online. They're done, she said. The world is watching. Suddenly, bang! Gunfire echoed across the compound. They were discovered. Jacob grabbed Olivia's hand. Stay close. Maeve fired from the hallway, covering their escape. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, local police alerted by the live stream. Journalists were already circling in helicopters. They sprinted through the back gate just as a bullet whizzed past Olivia's. "Here," she stumbled, but Jacob caught her. Almost there. They didn't stop until they reached a hilltop overlooking the chaos. Flashing lights lit up the entire compound. Officers arrested the operatives. Media vans flooded the road. Olivia collapsed to her knees. "It's over," she whispered. "It's really over." Jacob knelt beside her, brushing a tear from her cheek. "No," he said softly. "It's just the beginning." The stranger who stayed, the media called it the leak that shook the country. Within 48 hours of Olivia's live interview and the footage from the compound going viral, everything changed. Arrests were made. Government officials were forced to resign. Whistleblower protection laws were urgently reviewed. And the hidden surveillance program, once a silent weapon used against countless innocent citizens, was officially dismantled. But for Olivia and Jacob, the battle wasn't just against a broken system. It was also about reclaiming the lives they'd almost lost. They spent the following week in a safe house, this time provided by a legitimate investigative news agency that had taken up their story. Olivia stood near the window, watching the sunrise. It painted the sky in soft gold and pale blue, colors she hadn't really noticed in years. Jacob walked in holding 2 mugs of coffee. He handed her one. "No more hiding," he said quietly. "We did it." She looked up at him. "So, what happens now?" He paused. "That's up to you." Olivia turned back to the sky. Her heart was full but tired. After all the running, fearing, doubting, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. But there was one question still burning inside her. "Why did you save me?" she asked softly. "Back then, that day on the road, you could have kept driving." Jacob sat down across from her. "I had just received the last piece of evidence I needed. I was on my way to disappear forever. Then I saw your car crash." He looked at his hands. "For a second I thought, maybe I was being tested. Maybe if I still had the instinct to save someone, I hadn't completely lost myself in all this." He glanced at her again. "Saving you saved me too." Olivia blinked, the words hitting her harder than she expected. They sat in silence, sipping coffee as the sun rose higher. A month passed, then 2. The dust settled. The world moved on. Olivia returned home, no longer as the woman who lived, quietly behind a desk, but as someone who had seen darkness and decided to shine light into it. She wrote a book about the experience. Not just about the data or the agency, but about survival, memory, and healing. It quickly became a bestseller. People around the world connected with her story, her strength. But Jacob didn't go public. After the interview, he stayed in the background, refusing interviews, avoiding photos. "I didn't do this for fame," he told her once. "I did it so people could breathe again without looking over their shoulder." Still, Olivia wished he'd stay longer, be part of her new chapter, not just her past, but one morning he was gone. No note, no goodbye, just vanished again. 3 months later, Olivia walked into a local bookstore for a reading. A young girl handed her a letter before the event began. "Someone dropped this off for you," the girl said. "He said you'd know who it's from." Olivia unfolded the note. "Oh, I thought saving you was the end of my story, but it turns out you were just the beginning. I need to go make peace with the pieces I've left scattered in other places. But I'll be back. This time, I promise." Her heart raced. She smiled, held the note to her chest, and walked out to greet the small crowd waiting to hear her speak. Maybe life was like that car crash, shocking, violent, and life-altering, but sometimes you survive for a reason you don't yet understand. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the garden of her new home, planting wildflowers. The sky was soft with spring. Birds chirped lazily overhead. A car pulled into the driveway. She turned, brushing dirt from her hands. Jacob stepped out, carrying a backpack, a smile, and eyes that held everything they had been through. "I told you I'd come back," he said. She walked over, heart pounding. "I almost didn't believe you. I almost didn't believe myself," he said, laughing gently. "But I realized something. I've been running from the world for too long. And you make me want to stay," she took his hand. "No more disappearing?" He shook his head. "No more." They stood there a moment, in the quiet peace of new beginnings. Epilogue: Olivia and Jacob eventually founded an independent media organization focused on protecting whistleblowers and telling hidden stories the world needed to hear. They called it the First Light Project, named after that sunrise they watched together when the world first felt different. Their mission wasn't just about fighting corruption. It was about helping people understand one simple truth. Sometimes the people who change your life forever aren't the ones who stay, but the ones who come back. The end.